This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, here we go. Three, two, one. What is up, everybody? Brian Mendler back in your life on another edition of the podcast. And today I am super excited to be joined by my good friend from Kentucky, Leslie Miller, joining me. It's good to see you. Nope, not see you, hear you. It's so funny. We're trying to get our camera working. It's not working. So we're going straight audio today. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Gotta love technology.
Gotta
Woohoo!
love it, right? Gotta love it. So we first met a few years ago. I came to your school and did a there and was just super impressed by what you were doing in your classroom. Would you consider yourself a self-contained teacher?
Sure. Yeah, I think we would. Yeah.
So
hmm
tell me a little bit about what you do.
Okay. So I'm at Jackson Academy. I am the coordinator there. And in my 23 years of teaching, it is by far my most favorite thing I've ever done. I'm kind of the jack of all trades at Jackson Academy, I think. I teach. I do restoration with kiddos when things aren't going well in their world. I counsel with them. I'm a bridge between our students and their homeschool. My most important job is just to love them while they're there.
And so these are often troubled kids, right? They're kids that
Mhm.
they come to you from sort of the mainstream school, and your goal is to get them back there, or tell a little bit about that.
Okay, so we are an alternative school, and alternative to me means choices. And that's what we are. We're a school of choices. So our students come to us several different ways. They can come to us if they've just been having continuous behavior problems in their school. Their school has tried everything they know, and it's time for them to spend some time with us. They can come to us through a board placement when they've had a major violation, drugs, alcohol, weapons, different things like that. They can come to us. They can come to us through a transition. If they've been in an alternate school outside of our district and they move in, then they may come to us. And when we first started our program, it was pretty much just they came to us for 45 days and then they would move out. And we realized we kind of had some magic going on, and our students did not want to leave.
Hmm.
And if they did leave, they would go back to their school with all the tools that we taught them, and they would choose not to use those so that they could come back to us. Why would you do that to a student? Why would you put them right back to where they were not successful, force them to be unsuccessful, and then so that they could come back? So now we have what we call Excellence Academy. So if they have been with us, they're 45 days, they've been successful, then we make a decision with the parent and the student, my principal, Mr. Wilson, myself, and we all just talk. Is this the best place for them? And if we all believe and we all agree that it is, then they stay with us in Excellence Academy. They can stay with us, and we reevaluate every 9 weeks. If they decide they want to try to go back to their school, or let's say we've got a middle schooler, they've never been to high school, they want to give that a whirl, they'll go back. And if it doesn't work out, they can come back. And they can stay with us until they're a junior, and then they can transfer to Lighthouse, which is in our building. I just had a student to call me over this kind of COVID second shutdown, and he was like, Miss Miller, hey, I'm back at school. I made a mistake. I need to come back. How can I get back? So so that's what we're doing.
So what are the tools when you say, that you give them tools, whether
Mhm.
it's they take them back to their school or,
Mhm.
for their life. What are those tools that you work with them on mostly?
Our students come to us in uh, in poverty, financial poverty, mental poverty, emotional poverty. They've done without for so long, and we're kind of the physicians. We have to figure out what it is, diagnose, and then help treat. And that's what we do. And a lot of our students come to us and their school said they won't work. We just can't get them to do their work. And so we figure out, can they do their work or will they won't do their work? I tell is their want to broke? And so we change their work. Why would we keep giving them work they cannot do? We find out what they can do, and we build their strengths up there. But then we figure out if they won't work, then we give them jobs that they can do. We teach life skills in our program. We teach them how to look somebody in the eye, how to shake their hand, how to introduce yourself. We're very unconventional in some of the ways that we teach. I have a student like, I don't do math. Okay, yeah, me either. Could you help me to average this money that we've made with the homemade soap that we've made? Like, I don't do math either, but could you help me figure out how to do it? Yeah, I'll do that. They apply for jobs. We don't give students jobs. That's a big thing in education. Well, you need to give them a job. Well, I've never been given a job myself. I had to apply for jobs and interview for jobs, and then you take pride in that job that you earned. So that's what we do. You apply for jobs. And then, so they're learning all of these skills through that. We teach a lot of just how to regulate yourself, how to recognize what's going on, how to calm yourself down. So we kind of build a toolbox for them. I heard you say one time, Brian, that you taught like the secrets of school to kids, and we do that. We took that, and I talk to them like, look, hey, when I'm up here talking, if you just look at me and nod your head every once in a while, like, I think you love me. I think you think I'm awesome.
Smile, right?
And smile. And
Right.
and I had a student. We teach that, and I had a student tell me, he's like, man, I wish somebody would have taught me this like 10 years ago. Maybe I wouldn't be here right now. But we just make them feel important, and yeah.
I used to, so that reminds me, I'm just smiling because I used to call it survival skills. So and look, when I say survival skills, we're not talking about like hunting and fishing. That's not, I'm good with camping if there's like a Hilton at the end of the trail, you know what I mean? Or a Marriott.
Yeah.
But the survival skills was, I will teach you as a kid how to survive in any teacher's class that you don't like, right? So if you don't like, because that was the thing for me when I taught special ed, was a lot of times kids would come to me and complain about other teachers, right? I hate Mrs. Such and Such. She's such a B, and they would, and the thing is, like, half the time I agreed with the kid, right? Half the time I didn't really like that my colleague either, but I would never say that. So what I would say is, it doesn't matter what you think of her or what I think of her. Like, I already passed math. Like, math is done for me. Like, you need to figure out how to get what she has. That lady has a grade and you need to get it, right? And I'm pretty sure the best way of getting something from someone that you need isn't by calling them names, and then we would work on those skills, like literally work on the skills of, and it's really sales training if you think about it, right? It's you have to sell yourself to these teachers. And a lot of times the kids that we're talking about, they've done the opposite, right? They've created a reputation for themselves of being so difficult for a lot of people that it's like, that's what the teacher's expecting. And when you can flip that and turn that and get a kid and get a teacher to see a kid differently, then a lot of times the teacher starts to give the kid the benefit of the doubt. And that's really a lot of times all our kids need.
Absolutely. When they come into our building, I don't look at the reasons that they're there. I don't look at that past discipline. I don't share any of that with our teachers. So every student that comes in, they're already forgiven for whatever they've done. It's a clean slate. And so we're trying to give the student new glasses to see themselves as well. So, you don't have to be this, you don't have to be that. And so we're trying to get them to see themselves in a different light, and see themselves as, successful, and wow, like, I can respect myself, and I can model these things. We started when I told Mr. Wilson, our principal, that I had this idea that our students were only going to reply to us with yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. He was like, okay, good luck with that.
Right.
And so, but what I found was our students, they didn't know how to reply to a teacher. And so, like in my building, that may not be super important, but when they go back to their school and they have that difficult teacher, like if you just say yes, ma'am, and that teacher keeps arguing with you, like you've got the power. And I teach them that, and they're like, oh, wow, like this is a game changer for me. And so in our building, we never really have to remind them. They just answer everybody, yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, or yes, sir, and no, sir. And I tell them, I'm like, gosh, look how awesome that makes you look.
Yeah.
And
I think
that's a skill.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. What I was going to say is I think in part that's because a lot of times the kids we're talking about have often felt so out of control in their life, and you're giving them a skill that puts them directly in control, which is really cool for them. Like once they realize that and you're like, you have the power to get that teacher to like you, it changes their mindset.
Absolutely. And it, I tell them all the time, like, guys, like, because they're, our students, oh, I'm never going to use this. I'm never going to use this. Yep, that's a life skill. You're going to use that forever. And then parents start calling us and they're like, hey, like, what are y'all doing up there? Because like their behavior at home is completely changed. They're so respectful at home. I'm even getting yes ma'ams at home because it's such a habit.
Yeah.
And it's just, and the kids are so proud of themselves. When we have visitors come in, and you got to experience this, Brian, when we have visitors come in, I always tell them, people think they're going to come into an alternative school and it's going to be wild and loud and
Right.
rude students, and our kids are awesome. And they stand up, they shake your hand, they introduce themselves. And again, it's just that, being able to see, for others to see them in a different light, and for them to be able to see them as well.
It's so powerful. So I'm curious to know a little bit more about you. I've come to your school, and we've had lunch together, right? When I did my conference, we rode in the car together with a bunch of your staff. What made you, like, take me through your life a little bit? What made you get excited about working with this population and being a teacher at all?
Sure. I am a firm believer that one person can make a difference in your life. One person can change the whole trajectory. I grew up in a really small town in Kentucky, no stoplights. One gas station that came in when I was in high school. So I'm the first in my family to graduate from college. I knew that I wanted to be a teacher. That's been in my heart forever. But we financially, I knew we're not going to have that option for me to go to college. So what that was going to look like for me was probably spending some time working, doing community college. But I had a home economics teacher in high school. And she was the first person who said to me, you've got potential. You need to be a teacher. You need to be in the classroom. I also was a student aide my senior year with a teacher, and he told me the same thing, like, you've got to be in the classroom. But my home economics teacher, when I told her that financially that's not possible for us, she said, no, you're going to the university. You're going to Western Kentucky, and I'm going to call and get that interview set up for you. So I can vividly remember that day. She went into her office, called Western, made an appointment for me to go down, and my mom and I drove to Bowling Green and met with my college advisor there, told him what I wanted, but also told him financially it wasn't an option. He proceeded to find me a teaching scholarship. For as long as I taught in Kentucky for 4 years, they would pay for my school. So that's what I did. And I taught family consumer science for 6 years, and I loved it. And I never thought I would ever leave the classroom. In Kentucky, you have to get your master's. And so when it was time, okay, I've got to think about this, I was the teacher that the students always stayed after class to talk to. I was the one that they came to my room. I was the teacher that sat at the conferences and said, yeah, they really don't have any problems in my classroom. They're awesome. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll go get like a school guidance certificate for my master's because, that I can help students that way from my classroom. Part of my master's and my rank one was filling out a job application and going through, an interview for a position. And so I did that. It was for a position in what was called student assistance, where this person would travel around Warren County to all 4 of the middle schools and to the alternative school and just counsel at-risk students. I never really thought I wanted that job, but I just needed to check that off my list. So I went in and I applied for that job with Nancy Bertolite, and she offered me the job. And I thought she was kind of crazy because I was just a family consumer science teacher. I didn't know how to counsel students or do anything. And she said to me, I see something in you. You've got a gift, and I want you to be a part of our team. And I left the classroom, and I was in student assistance for 11 years, and just traveled around our district and worked with students. But my favorite day was Thursdays, because Thursdays I got to be at the alternative school. And I fell in love with that atmosphere. I fell in love with the students. And there again, the principal there was Cecil Goff at the time. And he said to me, I see something in you. This is where you belong. This is where you belong. And I had worked with Eric Wilson on a couple of situations in his school. And when he moved to the principal of alternative schools, I thought, wow, I'd love to work for him. Yeah. And when that job came open, I applied and moved there. And in the interview, he said, okay, this is what I want. I want in Kentucky, we have a program of distinction. And that's what I want our program to be. So get us there.
Wow.
And at the time, it was a placement for students. It wasn't a rehabilitation or an intervention for students. Right. So I said, I got it. And two years later, we were a program of distinction and have been each year that we have applied. And it is absolutely my privilege to get to go in and work with these kiddos every day.
So question. So I'm going to just go back a little bit. When you talk about that job where you were the teacher who kids stayed after and kids wanted to talk to, what do you think that was? Like, what, for teachers that are listening, what were the specifics that made it that way? Because I felt the same way, right? When I was teaching, that was the same. It was the kids would come to my room to eat lunch, and I never had a free period because anytime I was free, there was always kids coming in, and it was like this magnetic thing where they wanted to be around me. What was that? What were the specifics that made it be that way for you?
So I think that you cannot hide how you feel from students. And students will see right through you if you do not truly care for them. I think that relationships, we throw that word around a lot, but I think I was truly forming relationships because I was talking with them about their world and I was sharing my world with them. I talked with them about home and about my children and about my husband and about struggles I had in school. I shared myself with them, and in turn, they shared themselves with me, and I listened. And they knew that I cared. They knew that I wasn't checking off a box. Oh, I have to talk to you for 10 minutes today because that's on my list. And I think just investing in them, I'm always a big, huge fan of calling their parent, just to tell them, I'm so lucky to have your child in class. You send me your best every single day. And I am blessed to have them. I Other teachers would say, "Gosh, Leslie, it's like you put on a show every day." Yep. I do. I think that I need to bring my best every day, even if I'm tired, grumpy. Our kids get enough of that at home. Like, they need to see every day I'm joking, I'm happy. I ask them personal questions about themselves, and they want to share. And so just listening and truly letting them know that you care.
What were those struggles for you as a kid? So you said you shared your struggles in school as a kid. Did you have some struggles as a kid in school?
Academically, no. School was pretty easy for me. Um, I had a lot of anxiety in school, though, to be perfect. Um,
Mm.
I can remember in third grade having to be sent home because we had spelling tests on Friday, and I had to get 100. I can remember in sixth grade, our teacher said, "I've never had anybody make 100 on every spelling test for the whole year. Maybe this will be the year." What I heard was, "Leslie, you have to do that." And so I struggled with a lot of anxiety. But, back in the 90s, we didn't talk about that. And so I did. I had a lot of anxiety, and I shared that with kids, how I dealt with that. Um, my dad was amazing. My dad was a custodian, and when I started teaching, my students would come in, "Oh, you're Mr. Paget's daughter?" "Yeah, I am." And I would share with them. They loved my dad so much because he was their custodian in elementary school. But I would share with them, we went through some financial times in my life that were rough too. Like, my dad lost his job at one point. It was really stressful for us. I didn't know at the time. My mom and dad were amazing. And so I didn't know we were having financial issues. Um, but as an adult, I did, as an adult looking back. And I wasn't afraid to share those things with students. And I think our kids want you to just be real. And they want to know that you're real, that you're not perfect, and it gives them the okay to not be as well.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I feel like, being vulnerable with kids creates an environment where vulnerability is good, right? It's when you become vulnerable and you lead with that and you let kids know who you are, like not just your favorite color and your favorite animal, right?
Mhm.
Which that's fine too. I'm good with that. But like the real stuff, the real like person underneath that. And I find it interesting because I'm not sure if you've heard of Dave Schmittou. So he's a good friend of mine, and he was actually on my show last week. And he talked about a time in his life where he was in third grade and he was labeled gifted in third grade. And he said it was the worst thing that ever happened to him because from that moment on, it for him, he felt this incredible pressure to always have to be spectacular and always have to be great. And like, well, I'm the gifted one. So since I'm gifted, I better know every answer and I better know every and it created this sort of chaos for him in school. And so that it's really kind of 2 weeks in a row that I've interviewed people where you guys have talked about being excellent students, but how that can also lead to a lot of pressure and a lot of anxiety.
Absolutely. I had, I always share this, and one day I say I'm going to find her and let her know I turned out okay. But I had a seventh grade math teacher, and I can remember what I had on that day. This is what an impact teachers have. I can vividly remember what I had on that day. And I walked
What
up
did
to
you
her
have on?
desk. I had on a blue jogging suit, and it had black checks all over the top. And I walked up to her desk. I had gotten my math test back, and math was not my strong point, but I was okay in math. It was tougher for me. So I walked up to her desk and I told her I needed help, and she said, "Your help is that you better pray you marry a smart man one day." And I thought, okay, I'm dumb in math. I can't do math. And um, even when I was a senior in high school And I was preparing, to go to college. I can remember asking, how many math classes do I have to take because I can't do math? Because in 7th grade, my teacher told me I couldn't. And we as teachers need to recognize the things that we say to students are going to impact them forever. And just like teachers impacted my world forever, negatively, but just overwhelmingly positively. My students have rough homes. They have rough situations, and I can't change those situations, but you better believe I can change the 7 hours they're with me. That can be the most positive 7 hours they have in their day. And we've because of COVID, we've been on a hybrid schedule, and our students were only coming 2 days a week. And we had finally gotten the clearance that some students could come 4. And one of my students said to me, I can't wait till I can come here 4 days because it's like a vacation.
Right. And now they're not coming at all. Right. And
And yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. Now they're not coming at all. So we're back to all virtual, and that doesn't go well when students have limited resources at home. But we're trying our best.
I know. And when I say what I say, which I've been unbelievably vocal about, that kids, that it's absurd what we're doing right now as a society, and not you and me, like it's not the individual people, it's not our fault, right? We're not the ones doing it, but as a society, what we have done, the fact that we are okay with this, right? Like, and it makes me nuts because like this talk about privilege, right? This thought process that home is safer, right? Stay home and stay safe. What? Like I taught kids, you're teaching kids right now. You just said it. School is the vacation from home, right? Home is a disaster. Home is abuse. And this notion that that's a safer environment for people is, to me, talk about coming from a mentality of, and look, and I'm not talking about my kids, right? Look, it's hard on my kids too, right? Like you said it before, your own kids are struggling with this because of the isolation. But look, my kids have a mom and a dad, and we're not struggling for money, and we're okay, right? We're working with our kids, but we're talking about a lot of kids now that are home. Their parents have often lost their jobs at this point, right? They're sometimes scrambling to look for jobs. And oh, by the way, they're supposed to play teacher too. Like, what are we doing? It's maddening to me, uh,
It
deep breaths,
is.
right?
It is. It's especially for us.
It should be unacceptable for all of us educators to put up with this. We should all be at a point right now where every one of us should be screaming at the rooftops that our schools have got to be open. Go ahead.
No, I agree. I am team open the building and bring our students back in, because our students' safe place is school.
Right.
That is where they feel safe. And that is where they feel connected. At that is not at home. And it is maddening. It is maddening for me. We do such huge Christmas at Jackson Academy. We fill that emotional bucket for our kids, and we've just got to figure out a different way that we're going to do that this year. We've got several students that are back with us this year that were with us last year, and they're like, but what about Christmas? So, we're just having to pivot and do things different. And
Yeah.
I'm just so prayerful that our kids get back soon.
Especially alternative schools. Like,
Mhm.
okay, and I want to be clear, like when I say open, I'm not saying don't take precautions. Like, fine, like whatever you gotta do to take precautions, do it. But like, I mean, okay, I kid you not when I tell you this, Leslie. I went to the grocery store the other day, and last week during Thanksgiving, there had to be 1,000 people there. There had to be 1,000 people at the grocery store. But I can't have 7 or 8 kids in a classroom. What world am I living in? Seriously, like what world am I living in? So I'm curious, like, what are you doing virtually? How are you making it successful for your students virtually? Because I have to imagine that that's not a super easy thing to do.
And I don't have the magic answer here. What we are doing is staying connected every single day. And what that looks like for us is old-fashioned telephone calls. The Google Meets, our kids don't show up to. They don't. They feel uncomfortable with that. They don't have internet speed for that. So that just does not work for us. But we call every day. We talk to parents every day. We talk to students every day. Multiple people talk to them every day. We have 4 teachers and myself, and we're all, because they're all of our students. It doesn't matter whose classroom you're in. So I'm talking to parents every day because I'm counseling parents more than students. So I'm offering the parental support. But I think you've got to have some fun with it as well. We've done pizza delivery, like a pizza's going to show up at your house today. What do you want on that?
Yeah.
You've just got to have some joy in there as well. We're mailing cards. Like, how fun is it to go to your mailbox and to get that? And we're going to have to think outside of the box with how we're going to be able to do Christmas, but it's going to work. We're gonna make it happen, but it's just our students need to hear your voice every day. And our kids, they need to know that when we're open, you're coming back. You're coming back to me. You're not going back to your school. You're going to come back to me. And the amount of work that I'm seeing some of the schools give students at home, even my own children, it's just completely overwhelming. And so I'm trying to give them, okay, let's just get a little bit done today, but then let's, are you going to make something in the kitchen? I've made videos of myself baking cookies, and hey, let's do that. And what a wonderful time that we're at home. Like, I can let them into my world even more. I've made videos in my house. Like, they think that's awesome to see, where does Miss Miller live? My husband's made videos with me. I can show them my dog. So, and I want to see the same from you. Like, show me your dog. Oh, you're at home. But I think you have to remember and be really mindful. If you're doing something like a Google Meet, every student does not want to show you their house.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep hearing over and over, have your camera on, have your camera on. Even from my own son's Google Meets, every student doesn't want to put their camera on.
Right.
And so you're going to have misbehavior from them because of that. So you've got to be mindful. This is not the classroom, and we shouldn't treat it as such.
Yeah, it's interesting because I see it with my own kids. I told you before we started, my daughter's in school 5 days a week. She goes to a private school. My local district where I live, right now we're 100% virtual, which is crazy because my daughter goes to a school like a half mile away from there, and her school's in session for 5 days. We're supposedly going back this week on Friday, but I find it interesting to watch my son's teacher teach because I'm watching, right? And they send out a memo asking parents not to watch. That's hilarious, right? I'm going to watch. It's my house, right? Tell me where I can be in my own house, right? I'm going to watch. And not only am I going to watch, but I'm going to judge. And I don't mean that rudely, but that's where we're at. Like, we're in society now where it's an open book, right? And I find it, and he's great. Let me be clear. Like, I'm a huge fan of my son's teacher this year. He's really trying. He does, I think, a pretty nice job. But it's hard. Like, it's an incredibly challenging competition, because when I say competition, like, he's up against every other app that my son has on his iPad. Like, you're like, as the teacher coming into the iPad, you're just another app, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, to the kid. And it's like, you have to be more entertaining than every other app that my kid has. And whoa, like, that's a hard task, but what I really hear you saying, and I love it, is it's just another level of relationship building that you're doing. It's like this this level of like in school, I don't get to bring you into my home, and you don't get to see where I live and my decorations in my home. And I love the fact that you're doing that and you're willing to do that. And I agree with you on the cameras. It's the same, by the way, when I teach adults. I've been doing a lot of Zoom staff development. That's where staff development is now as well. And it's the same. Like, a lot of people don't want to turn their cameras on. And what I found kind of really interesting is I feel like actually there's a solid segment of the population now that learns better this way. Like, I did a whole bunch of these staff developments in August. That was my busiest month. And I did them all from this chair in my basement, which was amazing for me because normally I'm on the road like 18 cities in the month of August. And this August, I was home and done at like 1 o'clock and in my pool by 1:30, which was an incredible thing. But like, what I noticed is, so what I always say to people is, if you want to have your camera on, you can. If you don't, I'm okay with that too. There might be times though where I ask you to pop it on real quick for like a quick activity or something. And what I would notice is people would turn their cameras on and there would be like 4 or 5 teachers in a room all setting up, like doing something else, like listening to me, right? I would be on in the room, but they would be like setting up a bulletin board or just doing something else. And what I always felt the downside to staff development was before this was I always felt like there was a percentage of people, no matter how good I was as a presenter, that was in the back of their mind thinking I could be doing something else right now. Like right now I could be grading papers. And there's some people who learn better that way. They're good at, I think teachers in general are good at multitasking, right? And I think to respect kids and to say to them, I trust you. Like, I trust that you're going to be on there. And I know you're not going to get 100%, kids on like when you do that, but I agree with you. Like, I think you just got to be careful trying to have it all right now as a teacher.
I agree. And grace, lots and lots of grace. We've got to show ourselves as teachers and our students and our parents as well. And that's what we're trying to do through Jackson Academy.
I agree. And I think it's important to remember that especially the parents, like the what they're going through, it's hard for them. Like, I see my wife sits at that table with my son for hours every day, literally hours, and works with him. And that's hard. Like, there's a lot of parents. My wife's a teacher, luckily, so she's trained, but there's a lot of parents. They don't learn how to be a teacher as a parent. Like, there's not a manual that comes with it that says, here's what you're supposed to do. What are you doing? How do you specifically help the parent? You said you do that where you'll talk to parents and communicate with them. How do you help them? What specifics?
I think just letting them know, so many of our parents right now are so afraid that their student is getting so far behind academically. And I think just reassuring them that they're going to be okay. They're going to be okay. That yes, maybe they're not doing their computer program, but do you have any books in your home? Like, could you all read a book together? Just offering them alternatives. I remember one mom I was speaking to, she said he will not sit still long enough to get this work done on the computer. Yeah, okay. Could you take him outside? Like, let's go outside, go on a walk, time your walk, figure out how fast did you walk in that mile. That's math. And so just giving them the permission to veer away from maybe assignments that we've given. Here's the assignment, but if you've got something else as the parent that you think would work, let's talk. Let's figure out how to make that work in your home. So I had students sending videos of them, making the cookies because they had to figure their recipe out.
Yeah.
And just all kinds of different things. Just giving parents permission to parent.
Yeah. And
and
I think
give
I
it.
think you can do that with so many different aspects of school, right? So you got me think so you go on that walk and like, you could even say just bring like a really small notebook and a pencil
Mhm.
line, write down all the different things you see and then like we're going to turn that into an essay. Like you really use the kids' world to create your lessons versus
Absolutely.
creating your lesson and expecting them to come into your world. You're going into theirs. Make sense?
Powerful. Teaching the student over the content, right?
People over
Yeah.
product, right?
Hmm.
Kids over content. I don't think it's an easy thing to do for a lot of people because I think the instinct as a teacher is, sort of like I'm supposed to plan my lesson over here in my world, and the kids are supposed to learn my lesson, and it takes a different sort of thought process to flip it really and to utilize what the kid has. But now's the time for that because nobody's the same. Like every kid at home has something different that they can use. And for us to be able to utilize that to teach our content is so incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. Hmm. And this is territory none of us have ever walked before. And so I am very quick to tell parents and students, hey, we're going to figure this out together. I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers, but you can call me, you can email me. Let's talk about this together. And so I think it's just really partnering with the parent and not excluding the parent, and giving the parent some power during this time. And some of my parents are involved and some are not. And so it's really empowering the students that are not involved, empowering those parents to rejoin into their students' education. And I'm really hopeful that because of this, maybe we're going to see something different when we do come back. You know,
What do you mean by that? Like when you say see something different?
because I think a lot of our parents have checked out of parenting their
Mm,
student. They were not successful students. They see school as intimidating. And so it's kind of like, hey, teachers, that's your job. And now they're the teacher.
right.
And it's really just giving them that power back that, you're their parent. And you are their biggest cheerleader, and you know what your child needs. Let's figure it
Yeah.
out together. Let me help you figure it out together. And so I'm really hoping that that relationship with the parent and school is going to be mended a little bit. And then when we get back, hopefully sooner than later, I'm kind of hopeful to see what that looks like.
Hopefully sooner than later, that's for sure. And that's what these kids need. Listen, Leslie, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I miss you all. Like I miss coming there and like I miss traveling so much. It's my life got turned upside down back in March, and it still hasn't really righted side up yet. Like it's still
Mm-hmm.
kind of we're getting there. Like but it's still and I miss it. Like I miss seeing you and not just you but all the teachers that are out there making an impact and on behalf of all the kids I just want to say thank you. You are a special human being. You really are. And you light up a room. You're one of those people that when you walk in a room, that's why I was sad that I couldn't see you today
I
because I
know.
I feel an energy from you always. Every time that I see you, that is contagious. And your students are lucky to have you. And I just want to say thank you for spending a little bit of time with me. Is there any last bit of information that I always ask people this that you would like to leave people with?
Um, I, if I could leave teachers with one thing, I think that I would want every teacher to know it is your greatest joy. What a privilege you have to teach, to be able to spend time with parents' most precious gift that they have, and use every minute of that you have pouring into those students.
I feel it. I feel the passion and the energy from you. Thank you so much. How can people get in touch with you if they want? Are you on social media? You
I
are, but
am.
where can they find you? Can they
Um,
find you anywhere?
I'm most active on Facebook. and it's Leslie Paget Miller, and that's me. And of course, they can always email. We've got a lot of really great things to share. We're Jackson Academy in Bowling Green, Kentucky. We've got a webpage, so you can find us there, and we've got a lot of really great things going on with our school. Our school is very active on Twitter. So they can find us there. It's JA@WCPS. So I try to, that's Twitter is where we use to celebrate our students. So
Cool.
they can see a lot of pictures there.
Very good. All right, Leslie, thank you so much for joining me. Everybody else, don't forget to rate. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to download. Don't forget to shout us out. You all know you can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube. I appreciate you all listening. I will be back with you same time next week. Until then, I say peace. I'm out of here.